Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to try something different. I'm going to give you a brief history of the legends of Sherwood Forest and then a review of the more modern facility. Deep in the heart of Nottinghamshire lies one of the most iconic landscapes, a place where history, myth and legend intertwine so seamlessly, and it's sometimes hard to know where the story ends and the truth begins. This is Sherwood Forest, a stretch of ancient woodland that has become more than just a natural landmark. It's a stage for one of the world's most famous legends, the tale of Robin Hood, the heroic outlaw who stole from the rich to give to the poor. When you walk beneath these century-old oaks, it's not just the crunch of the leaves underfoot that you'll hear, it's the whispers of the past, the rustle of cloaked figures moving stealthily through the undergrowth, a distant ring of steel as the swords clash together against one another, and the laughter of the band of merry men around the hidden campfire. Even if the legend is partly fantasy, there's something about Sherwood that makes the story feel alive, as if Robin and his companions might step out from behind the tree at any moment. The Robin Hood story has evolved over 800 years, shifting from medieval ballads to Hollywood blockbusters, but its heart has always been tied to the forest. The earliest tales describe him as a yeoman, not quite noble, but not quite a peasant, who defied the oppressive hand of authority. Later versions elevate him to a dispossessed nobleman, wronged by corrupt rulers, fighting back in the name of justice and freedom. And while the Sheriff of Nottingham looms large as the main adversary, the setting of the forest is just as much a character as the tale. Sherwood becomes Robin's fortress, dense, untamed and protective. Unlike castles and manors that symbolise wealth and power, the forest was the domain of common folk, of outlaws, and of those who slip through society's cracks. It's no coincidence that the hero of the people is forever linked to these trees. Robin's companions bring warmth, humanity to the legend. Little John, who is a second in command, famed for his size and strength. Friar Tuck, the jovial man of faith who portrayed both spiritual guidance and comic relief. Marian Maid, intelligent, courageous, and often portrayed every bit as Robin's equal. Together they formed the band that resisted tyranny and championed fairness in a world stacked against the poor. What's fascinating about Robin Hood is how his story has changed to reflect the times. In the earliest medieval ballads, Robin was a rougher character, a skilled archer, a swordsman, but not always the noble hero we imagine today. He lived outside the law, clashing with sheriffs, foresters and wealthy clergy, and sometimes showed a mischievous streak that bordered on ruthlessness. By the Tudor era, Robin's image had softened. He had become a patriotic figure, loyal to the rightful king, often said to be King Richard the Lionheart, while standing firmly against the corruption of Prince John and the Sheriff of Nottingham. This was when Maid Marian entered the story as his companion and love interest, adding romance and chivalry to what had once been grittier folklore. Later still, in the Victorian period, writers polished Robin Hood into the quintessential English gentleman outlaw. Gallant, charming and devoted to fairness, the Victorians loved moral tales, so Robin became a champion of the poor, a noble rebel who embodied charity and kindness rather than just a bandit of the woods. Of course, there's no tale to complete without an enemy, and the Sheriff of Nottingham has almost become as famous as Robin himself. In stories, the Sheriff represents everything Robin despises: greed, corruption and the abuse of authority. Whether it's raising unfair taxes, punishing the poor, or plotting to capture Robin and his men, the Sheriff symbolises the iron fist of government that crushes ordinary people. But perhaps the most enduring character in the legend is not a person at all, it's Sherwood Forest itself. In ballads and later stories, Sherwood is painted as a place of refuge, a green fortress where lawmen fear to tread. The thick canopy offered secrecy, the twisting paths gave Robin's men the advantage, and the vastness of the woodland created a natural labyrinth. The Robin Hood story endures because it taps into something universal. It's the dream of justice when the world seems unfair. It's the idea that one clever, courageous band of people can stand up to corrupt power and make a difference. That's because Sherwood Forest is real. The story feels grounded. It isn't some faraway fantasy land where you can actually go there, walk among the trees and imagine the outlaws are in there just hiding out of sight. Long before Robin Hood's name was ever sung in ballads, Sherwood Forest was already old. The earliest records of the woodland go back over 1,000 years. Through the trees themselves whisper of an even deeper past. The very name Sherwood comes from the Old English words Sicor Wudu, meaning the Shire Wood. It was so vast in medieval times that it stretched over 100,000 acres, a dense, rolling expanse of oak, birch and heath that covered much of Nottinghamshire. For medieval people, Sherwood wasn't just a tale, backdrop for tales, it was a living, breathing resource. It provided timber for buildings, grazing for animals, game for hunting and fuel for cooking. Forests were vital to daily survival, but Sherwood wasn't a free-for-all. It was a royal hunting forest, which gave it a very particular role in society. Unlike what we might picture today, a forest in medieval terms didn't just mean trees. It meant a legal designation. To be a royal forest meant to be under strict forest law, separate from the common law of the land. These laws were harsh, designed to protect game animals like deer and wild boar for the king's sport, and to preserve the woodland for royal use. Ordinary people couldn't hunt freely, chop down trees, or even let their pigs forage for acorns without paying fines or risking punishment. In fact, killing a deer could be treated as seriously as killing a person. For the poor who relied on the land for food and fuel, these restrictions were devastating. It's no wonder then that Robin Hood tales strike such a chord. No history of Sherwood is complete without mentioning its most famous resident, the major oak. This colossal tree is estimated to be around 800 to 1,000 years old, making it old enough to have stood when Robin Hood stories were first being told. According to legend, the major oak was one of Robin Hood's hideouts. Some stories claim that Robin and his men sheltered inside the hollow trunk, using it as a secret base. While this is more myth than fact, the tree was probably just a sapling in Robin's time. The idea is endured, and the major oak has become a symbol of both Sherwood Forest and the Robin Hood story. Over the centuries, Sherwood has shrunk dramatically. From its medieval peak of over 100,000 acres, it has dwindled away to a fraction of its size as agriculture, industry and development has chipped away at the woodland. Today, Sherwood Forest covers just 1,000 acres, far smaller than its heyday, but still enough to preserve for a sense of walking through history. When you arrive at Sherwood Forest today, you'll be greeted by the Sherwood Forest Visitor Centre, opened in 2018 and run by the RSPB. Inside are exhibitions that bring together natural history and folklore, displays about the ancient oaks and the wildlife that calls the forest home, and the many faces of the Robin Hood story and film. There's also a shop packed with Robin Hood memorabilia, local crafts and a cafe. From the visitor centre, the network of trails lead into the forest. The most popular here is the Major Oak, but there's longer trails too, including the Robin Hood Way, a long distance footpath which is more than 100 miles long across Nottinghamshire. What strikes visitors most is the atmosphere. The twisting oaks, many hollow and knotted with age, that seem like characters themselves. Depending on the season, the mood shifts. Lush and shaded in the summer, golden in the autumn, and strikingly beautiful in the winter. Sherwood is alive with wildlife.